Hi, my name is Amy Hill, and I am here to talk about my advocacy project and what I have learned in this class. So, I titled my project Title IX is Not Enough, a Push for Gender Equality in Sports. So, let's get started here. All right, so my project, obviously with the title, I am addressing the fact that there is an inequality between girls and boys in high school sports. So, the first and foremost thing that I want to do is just to bring awareness to that. Um, I think most women who have been part of high school sports will realize this, but I'm not sure that it's a problem that's addressed enough to the wider public audience. And so I think it's something that we really need to bring awareness to. Um, and as I was getting ready for this project, I kind of asked myself several times, do I want to focus on the players and what the girls are going through as athletes in high school sports? Or do I want to talk about what female coaches go through? Because I have been in both positions. I decided to address both. I think that both are equally important that need to be addressed. And then lastly, I want to encourage schools to start to go beyond the bare minimum that's laid out in Title IX, because that's what a lot of them do if they're meeting it at all. And, it would be great to even change the law a little bit to make it a little bit stricter. But right now, I think that's, the main goals of my project. So the problem itself. So I've said Title IX a couple times. I do want to address what that is. Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, that's its full title. It's just usually better known as just Title IX. Says that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So any public school, this goes for, elementary, middle, high schools, and public universities as well. My focus is mostly on high school sports because that's where my experience is. Okay, I played high school sports. I coach high school sports. I did not play at the collegiate level. I've never coached at the collegiate level. And this does apply to all school activities, but for the most part, sports are usually the most gender-separated activities within schools. So that is also why I'm focusing on that. So this law did improve things immensely. Before 1972, a lot of high schools just didn't even have a lot of girls' sports. If they did, the coaches were not paid. There wasn't much equipment or uniforms or anything given to those girls. And it just, wasn't really something that they thought was important. At the collegiate level, girls didn't get scholarships for athletics like guys did. But, after 1972, that made that no longer acceptable. So, girls' scholarships became a thing, athletic scholarships specifically, I should say. And positions in the school, if they, provided a team for the boys, there needed to be something that was similar for the girls, and coaches needed to be paid. But it doesn't cure the fact that for basically forever, that there has been this stereotype and this mindset that men are inherently better at sports than women. The whole it's their biology type thing is always the argument that they carry more muscle mass, and so they're obviously going to be better and stronger at anything athletic. And it's really frustrating that, in 2021, we're still dealing with this when we've seen amazing elite female athletes do amazing things. And it's not like every guy is good at sports. I love my husband to death, but if we competed in any sport whatsoever, even sports I've never tried, I guarantee I would beat him because he is so unathletic, and I'm just averagely athletic. But since this law has been a thing, the idea is kind of, okay, well, that solved it. There's no more discrimination based on sex because opportunities are provided. But really, it doesn't cure the problem of the mindset, which leads to a lot of microaggressions towards players and coaches. And sometimes things are still very outright sexist. to these female athletes and coaches. So as far as the advocacy work, the things that I thought were most important in this, and things that I pulled from our readings from earlier on um, in the class, statistics are definitely always going to be helpful when you're trying to persuade anybody of anything. You need to provide statistics to show here is a problem. In black and white, this is an issue. So some of the statistics I found for this during my research is the fact that some schools just flat out aren't meeting the requirements of Title IX. And honestly, if nobody brings it up to them, they can kind of get away with it. It's not until somebody pushes back on them that they have to actually make a change. So a study conducted in 2012 said 28% of U.S. public schools are not meeting Title IX requirements, just flat out not meeting the law. And so, that's a little old at this point, but that's close enough in our time that it's probably still not that different. And most of that was based on opportunities for female teams, just saying, oh, there's actually not really any interest, so we're just not going to have this girls' team, without really giving the girls an opportunity to participate in it. Also, as far as coaching goes, in Indiana specifically, that's where I live, so that was where a lot of my research was based out of, although, a lot of my research went throughout the entirety of the United States as well. Only about 25% of high school head coaches in Indiana are female, and that's for boys and girls sports, cross. So just because it's a girls sport does not automatically mean it's going to have a female coach, and often it does not. An example from my school, which the school where I teach and coach is also the school where I attended. So I was an athlete and a coach for the same school. There are 19 teams, varsity teams at my school. 10 of them are girls teams, 9 of them are boys teams. We don't have football, so that would be the 10th boys sport that most schools would have. And of those, there's one sport that has an entirely female coaching staff, and that's cheerleading. Other than that, there are 5 female head coaches in total. Okay, but those other 4 female head coaches all have male assistants. And again, that's 5 female head coaches for 10 girls sports. And not saying that a male cannot, coach a female sport effectively. I work with a male head coach on the volleyball team. I'm an assistant for the volleyball team, and I love this head coach. He's one of my greatest friends, and he's great at what he does. He has been a great mentor as a coach for me. But there is still a difference where he does not fully connect with our players sometimes, and the difference is the gender. It just, it is what it is. And these girls need to see more representation of themselves in their coaching. Stories as well, which I obviously just shared a couple short stories. This is one of the biggest things that I took away from one of the readings in our class, was that stories can be really, really powerful when trying to affect change. And so this is something that makes sense once I read it, because when I'm listening to advocacy work for other projects, when I hear somebody tell their own personal story, that's what really tugs at my heartstrings and makes me care for a cause. And so I wanted to make sure that I shared my experiences as a player and as a coach. And we need to make sure that we're sharing other people's voices as well, their stories. So I don't want to just share my own. That is mostly what I've done for this specific project, but I'd really like to take this further, and I'd like to start gathering stories from other women as well. And I think there would be a really good cause for a push for new legislation. Okay, Title IX was nearly 50 years ago. It's time for an update. So for my advocacy materials for my project, I wrote an op-ed essay where I detailed some things that happened to me as a player. Things like the fact that my softball team didn't actually have a field on the school's campus for the entirety of my playing career, which I graduated in 2009, so that was just 12 years ago. Right about the time when I was a junior or senior, some parents finally started complaining to the school board saying it really wasn't meeting Title IX that the boys' baseball team had a field on campus, while the girls had to drive or to walk to a local park to play on a little league baseball field that wasn't actually meant for a high school softball team whatsoever. It was not maintained very well, but that was all that we had available to us. And so they finally made a field on the school's campus after I graduated, but they didn't make it well. It's very uneven, and it's still a struggle to play on it. So I also talked about my coaching career, about how, I've not had a lot of opportunities to become a head coach, that I've been passed over a couple times specifically for softball. And that this past year, a good example of another story is that I was offered the middle school coaching position for the softball team after I didn't get an interview for the varsity coaching position. And as soon as I said to the athletic director that I would take the position, even though it really wasn't what I wanted to do, I wanted to coach at a higher level, the very first sentence out of his mouth was, "Great, I'll make sure I find a dad to help you." And so even though I know the sport so well, I played it all my life. My team went to the state championship in high school. He knows that. He was the athletic director during that time when I was a player. He knows my knowledge. He knows my coaching abilities because I have been coaching through programs for the last 8 years at the school. His first thought was, I need to get a man to help her. And so it was really hurtful to hear that. And one of the things that really pushed me to choose this as my project for this class. Along with that, one thing that I've kind of gotten into lately that I'm sure the rest of the world has as well is TikTok. And not only do I want to watch it because there's some silly, really funny videos on there, but I really love the videos that have a message. I like that these creators are taking this minute-long video that they have and getting out a quick story or a quick message that has an impact. They have to choose their words carefully to make sure that it has an impact. And so I see a lot of teachers on there I follow that talk about the frustrations in teaching. I have followed some coaches that have, done similar things. And so I would like to create a couple of videos, and I would like to continue this post the class, to kind of create an entire social media campaign of raising awareness for these problems. So as far as suggestions of what somebody else can do to also take part in this project or in this cause, share your own stories. That's a big thing. Okay, if you were a female athlete or a female coach, or them, people that have gone through these things, share those stories. Recognize microaggressions. Okay, when you are in your school, if you're a teacher or you're a coach, even if you're not a coach, you're not involved in sports, and you hear about the boys basketball team that is always playing at home on Fridays, while the girls basketball team always has to play on Tuesdays, even though nobody in the community wants to come out and watch a game on a Tuesday night, say something to the athletic director. Hey, why don't the girls ever get to play on Fridays? You'd think they'd make a little bit more money if they got to play on a night when people actually wanted to come. So call out those microaggressions when you see them. Support the girls' teams at your local schools. Okay, if you are a teacher or not, you hear about, a softball game coming up, a volleyball game, the swim meet for the girls' team. Go. Okay, pay that $5 for that ticket. Support the team. Show those girls you care, and show the school that there are people in the stands wanting to support these girls. That's one of the biggest arguments that I hear athletic directors say for the unequal funding that teams get is that, well, boys teams bring in more fans, so they bring in more money. They deserve more money. So we need to actually support these girls' teams and show them that they matter just as much as the boys' teams. And if you're like me and think that Title IX needs to be updated, that we need new legislation, write to your legislators. Okay, write to them and tell them this is not enough. We can't say this law from 50 years ago is good enough and just leave it at that. The times evolve, things change, and our laws need to evolve with them. So this is a little bit about what I've learned and what I did with my project. I really hope that you have enjoyed this as much as I've enjoyed doing this research and making this. And I'm really excited to take this project further, hopefully. Thank you.